Did mob ever contact you in the 80s saying, hey, Richard, can we strike a deal together, do something, or
Oh,
no?
you already getting off on mob stories now, are you? I have so many mob stories.
Do you really? I want to get into it. Why don't you share a couple of them with us?
Okay, well, it started in about 1981.
Okay.
1982, I was on a show called That's Incredible, so people saw me all over the world. And then the mob people started thinking, skills, dollar signs. This one guy first approached me, and he wanted me to show him what I could do. He was a mechanic, and I showed him. He said, I'll give you $1,000 a day to come work for me. This is 1982, so that's $1,000 a day was good money back then. And then I said, no thanks. He said, $2,000 a day. And again, I politely refused. And he said, how much will it cost to buy it? That was his actual, that's
Wow.
exactly what he said. How much will it cost to buy it? And I flashed back to my memories of the movie Godfather, where the guy wakes up with a horse's head in his bed. He made him a deal he couldn't refuse. And so I said, no thanks. And that guy followed me around for about 6 years, trying to get me to work for him. And then twice, I watched him on the news with he and one of his New York partners hauled off to jail because one of their operations was raided. Another offer came from the Middle East, started off with a phone call, very strongly accented voice, wanted to talk to me about doing business. And I said, meet me aboard the boat where I was the nightly entertainment. I get aboard a boat, and there was 5 men of Middle Eastern descent, and only one spoke English. The interpreter sat here, the boss, and then 3 other guys didn't say anything. And they said, they threw a stack of bills on my table and said, let's see what you do with those cards. So I sat down and started showing how I could win some of the things that you and I were doing. And then he says, we'll give you $10,000 a week to come to the Middle East and play cards for oil money. Because apparently there was a lot of Texans that had oil involvement with the oil business, obviously. And there was a lot of high-stake games they were playing. They wanted me to control which direction the money went. And I said, no thanks. And he was irate with me. He said, what? You're turning down $10,000 a week? I said, yep. We argued, he talked to his boss. His boss was mad at him. He's mad at me. And so they're arguing back and forth. Then he said, how about $20,000 a week? Again, I said, nope. They argued again. Now his boss is getting really mad at him for not securing a deal. He goes, $30,000. Finally he said, how about $1 million? Now he didn't say if that was by the week, but I did say no. And they were so irritated. They had just received their food. They threw down their forks, threw down their napkins, and threw another stack of bills on my table and left. And when I got the bills, I thought they were all like 1s or 5s. There was a stack of $100 bills. So I still had a good night, didn't have to compromise myself. Another person, very wealthy, very successful, and we were in his beautiful mountaintop mansion, and I was telling him about this offer I had from the Middle East, this $1 million offer I had from the Middle East, and he told me, don't take it. He said, in a situation like that, you'll be 100% used. He said, you understand what I'm trying to tell you, Richard? And for those that know, 100% used means they kill you when they're done with you. I told him, I know what it means. He said, you know those Middle East gentlemen? He said, they own half the world. He said, we own the other half. That's what he actually said, we own the other half. He said, we can arrange to have these card games take place in the United States and we'll back you here. And you know, I thought to myself at that point, I thought, wow, I'll be 100% used in my own country. I'll die here. That's the deal I was looking for. I want fresh American dirt I want to be buried in. I don't want any of that foreign dirt. And now, if you want, I can even tell you the scariest offer, but it'll take a couple minutes.
I want to hear it. Tell us.
I'm on a flight, headed to a performance, and I hear this paper rattling next to me. All of a sudden, this guy lowers his paper and says, hello, Mr. Turner. I want to talk to you about doing a little business together. And I thought, how did this guy know what flight I was on? How did he know what seat I was sitting in? Anyway, he was a diamond broker from Sun City, South Africa, and he wanted to offer me $200,000 to $300,000 to play cards in these games. There's a large Jewish community. His mother was Jewish, his father was Italian, and he wanted me playing these games to, once again, control the direction of the money. And we had a conversation, and it was nice to be flattered. He was flattered to have someone recognize you and talk, and in the plane landed. I thought that was the end of it. That was just the beginning. I'm in a hotel. I just finished we did a lot of media. I just finished some television appearances, and then my show, and now I'm in my hotel, and the phone rings. I answer the phone, he goes, Richard, it's me, Diamond. I'm downstairs, let me buy you dinner. I nicknamed him Mr. Diamond because he was a diamond dealer. So I called our chauffeur, his name was Ira, and he said, take me down to the hotel's restaurant, go down there, and he said, Richard, have a seat. He didn't offer to stand or shake my hand. He'd just have a seat. And then Ira left. He held his hand up in front of my face and said, I know your aversion to, well, you know, shaking hands. And I thought, how did he know I didn't like to shake hands? Now, it wasn't because I was weird or quirky. It's because the moisture or sweat from other people's hands affects my touch with the cards. So, you know, if someone was sweaty or whatever, that would diminish my touch. So that was the reason.
Interesting.
And so I thought, how did he know that? Oh, not even a half a dozen people know that. So then he said, hold out your hand. And he handed me a 5-carat diamond pinky ring. Back then, the gamblers wore these big old pinky rings. And the first guy I mentioned, he had a big old giant one, the biggest of marble. He says, worth $70,000. He says, it's a gift, a token of my good faith. And I knew if I accepted that ring, I would be owned by him. And I gave it back, said, thanks, but I'm not all that hot on jewelry. And so then I'm on the road again. I'm in another hotel. I walk in another place, another city, walk into this bar. Sitting at the bar again is Diamond. He goes, Richard, let me buy you a drink. I thought, how did he know I was going to be? I didn't know I was going to be walking in here. So we talked. We sat at the little, one of those little 2-man booths. Mm-hmm. He's across, and he goes, now you're in the martial arts. And I thought, how did he know I was in the martial arts? And he casually put his hand on my shoulder. He said, now, if you know, and he reaches across there like it was a small table, mm-hmm. and he put his hand on my shoulder. If you're in there, what you do is you take the punk, and then obviously grab my head, but you know, behind me, mm-hmm. my head, it went to just drive my nose into his forehead. He says, what you do is you take your thick skull and you drive it in the punk's nose. Call it what you want, Glasgow kiss, West Texas takedown. He says, sometimes if you're lucky, the punk will bite through their own tongue. And now I'm scared of this guy. And then we were getting ready to leave. He said, you're in the entertainment business. Perhaps you'd like to be on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Take this. This is Johnny Carson's business number, his personal number, and this third number is an answering service. Just leave a message that you called and I'll get back to you. I had no way of directing him directly. So I got home and I went to a friend of mine who was involved with our karate school. His mm-hmm. name was Chuck Curtis. And he was the captain of one of the most successful SWAT teams in the history of law enforcement. He took down a number of serial murders, included David Allen Lucas. And he said, with these mobsters being followed, you need to be able to protect yourself. And you need to handle a gun. And of course, I was a little leery of guns. So anyway, I'm going to speed up the story for you. So he had me for 6 months out on the sheriff's firing range. He'd throw a rock at a target, I'd aim and fire, and he armed me with a Walther PPK, James Bond gun of choice. And then I realized I can't take the gun on the plane. I had to check, back then, you had to put it in a locked case that mm-hmm. the airlines had the key to. And then that was very dysfunctional. So I'm in another city, and again, Diamond's there, invites me to have dinner with him, and he goes, you know, he tells me how it cost him $400,000 to buy off a judge for a murder he had committed. And I said, $400,000 is a lot of money. He says, not for a judge. And he says, now, if you ever want to have your wife killed, I can arrange for that. I can make that happen for you.
He didn't say that.
He did. He said there'd be an accident. He said there'd be an explosion. Boom! He said no one would know you were behind the killing. He said, I just wanted to let you know that's another service I can provide. Now, this guy really scared me, but that's half the story. The rest of the story is even more interesting, but I've told too much already and taken too much time.
Wow.